Hello and Namaste. Welcome to our series on the Vedic Civilization. For me, the journey began a few decades ago when I was a child singing the Gayatri Mantra with my parents, my brothers and sisters, my grandparents, and sometimes the extended family. Little did I know at the time that I was saying the same exact, powerful and magical words as they had been sang several thousands of years ago by our original rishis around the banks of the Sarasvati River, where the Vedic civilization began. For the Vedic civilization, the journey began, some say, around 3,500 years ago. Some say it's around 10,000 years old. And we'll explore this further in future videos. Coming back to my journey, a few weeks ago I was watching a presentation on YouTube by Swami Sarvapriyananda. I realized how little I knew about our ancient culture. I decided to go on this journey of discovery. Fortunately, I made some notes, and here we are. Enjoy the journey along with me. Going back to the beginning, India, that is Bharat. The focus of this presentation is to discover a past that is several thousands of years old, quoting from our original rishis in their own very words, as were passed on to us from generation to the next through mantras, shlokas, sutras, and Vedic compilations. The Vedic civilization, going back to the beginning, looking at the past to understand the future. Why go back to the past? I hear some of you ask. Why don't we just move forward? Well, we're fortunate enough that our ancients left us with treasure troves of wisdom, carefully preserved with painstaking efforts for several millennia. This knowledge allows us to connect profoundly with our past. No doubt some of those texts have been, and still are, misunderstood, have been suppressed, maligned, even mocked for several centuries. It's time to discover, or for some, to rediscover our proud past. There's now a semblance of a renaissance of sort that may provide us with much healing and revive our pride in our civilization after centuries of invasions and tyranny. A civilization that's so rich in culture, in parampara, that is arguably the most ancient, that's so full of knowledge, with much spirituality, philosophy, cosmology, and heavily anchored in the sciences, should be recognized as such, at the very least. We'll explore the links to the sciences in future videos in this series. We're indeed lucky that the Vedas have been meticulously preserved to a large extent. We're able to go back in time and experience, learn from their knowledge, and extraordinarily in the own very words of our first rishis. Ancient Veda is a powerful house of knowledge. It provides us with deep insights into a rich and ancient world, futuristic yet ancient, abstract yet solid, complex yet evident for some, thousands of years old yet concepts that are only now being understood by modern sciences, example quantum physics. The Vedas can only be understood through its cultural, philosophical, scientific, and spiritual lenses. and its abstractly poetic languages. The real secret of the Vedas lies in its goals of seeking the truth, the goal of seeking the eternal truth. Several millennia ago, to find out more about the beginnings of the Vedic civilization, we are fortunate that we do not have to look any further than the Vedas themselves, in the very words of our rishis, as originally transmitted and compiled thousands of years ago. Many of our texts have been destroyed, but thankfully the Vedas have been very carefully preserved. So the cradle of the Vedic civilization began along the banks of the mighty and powerful Sarasvati River in the northwestern region of Bharat. It is prominently mentioned in multiple verses of the Rig Veda, quoting from the most ancient of our Vedas, the Rig Veda. Source Rig Veda 7.96.2. Beautiful Sarasvati, inasmuch as by your might you feed the Purus, who dwell your two grassy banks, may you, O protractors, watch over us. May you, the friend of the Maruts, bestow riches upon the generous devotees. So the Rig Veda also mentioned the names of the 7 sacred rivers. Rig Veda 2.12, 4.28, 8.24, and so on. Sarasvati, Indus, Vitasta, Asikli, Parushni, Vipasha, and Shatrudu. So the Sarasvati River is also described and revered as the Abhitami, Naditami, Devitami, the best of mothers, the best of rivers, the best of goddesses in the Rig Veda. Entire hymns are dedicated to the Sarasvati River. At the beginning of the Rig Veda, Sarasvati Ma is described as mighty with powerful waves, whereas in the middle and late Rig Vedic books, she is described as a small river ending in a terminal lake. The Upanishads and later texts mention the drying up of the Sarasvati River. Gods wanted the volcanic fire to be transported from earth into the sea. They chose Sarasvati River for this job, and during its course of carrying that immense fire and heat, it slowly dried up." Unquote. So we get a chronology of the Sarasvati River in our ancient texts, how it started off as a mighty and powerful river and how later it dries up slowly but surely. So until the latest scientific findings, there were many of those who doubted the veracity of the Vedic text, and indeed that the Sarasvati River even existed. They thought it was a myth. But thankfully, now we're getting plenty of evidences to validate the truth about the Sarasvati River. The Sarasvati River, the cradle of the Vedic civilization of Bharat. Unfortunately, those who doubted the veracity of the Vedas, that includes many scholars from the British colonial era and Indians, considered that the most holy of our rivers, the Sarasvati, that had been backed by many Vedic and post-Vedic references, to be just a myth for centuries. Fortunately for us, with technological advances and scientific techniques, there are now increasing scientific evidence that corroborates the fact that a dried riverbed indeed existed along the same course. This has been confirmed by many studies. One study of black and white and colored satellite images by experts from the Central Arid Zone Research Institute of India. ISRO is another prime organization that's done some research on it, and there's been many scientific research published as well. One recently published in the prestigious Nature Scientific Report, November 2019. Indeed, there have been many Puranic and historical events that have happened around the Sarasvati River and have been documented in our ancient texts. Some examples are listed below. The Rig Veda, as we've seen so far, gives us great insights into our history. In subsequent videos in this series, we'll later explore other aspects of the Vedas, its philosophy, its sciences, etc. But for now, we'll focus on the people and the geography at the time. Among such an array of knowledge, the Rig Veda tells us about the people who existed at the genesis of the Vedic civilization. From this verse of the Rig Veda, we learn the names of the 5 clans that existed at the time. Rig Veda 1.108.8. If you lords Indra and Agni be amidst the Yadu, Turvasu, Triyu, Anu, and Puru, come hither, O giver of benefits, to drink the Soma offerings. So these are the 5 clans mentioned: Yadu, Turvasu, Triyu, Anu, and Puru. Then it mentions the Bharata dynasty. The Bharata dynasty emerged from amongst the Puru clan. Bharat was named after an ancient king's name, and it is the Bharatyas that find prominent references throughout the Rig Veda. The line of kings founded by King Devavada included at a later stage Divodasa and Sudas, who played a significant role in the consolidation of the dynasty in the land of the Purus, identifiable with the Punjab, Haryana, and later Uttar Pradesh as the heartland of the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda refers to the Purus clan as the Purvave Manave Jani, or the man of ancient stock, ancestry that we all share. They would migrate and settle throughout India, capturing the minds and hearts of the people all over Bharat, inspiring us with a vast knowledge, wisdom, and depth that formed the basis for advancement and evolution and survives to this day. Let's hope we see a revival throughout Bharat, India, and personally I would like to see a renaissance in the land where it all began. The surrounding areas of the Punjab, Haryana, where a few clans, a few people were at the start of it all, and where one may have lost sight of one's own very deep and profound roots. So this map depicts the beginnings, the early Vedic origins, where it all began. We have the Sarasvati River in red and the other 6 rivers in red. We also have the 5 clans as mentioned in the previous slides, and then in green we have some of the prominent places, surrounding places. To end this presentation, I would like to provide some quotes of wisdom from the Vedas and other texts based on the Vedas. Truth is one. Sages call it by various names. Rig Veda. Do not be led by others. Awaken your mind. Amass your own experience and decide for yourself your own path. All are equal in birth and in death. Differences arise only during the interval. The emperor and the beggar are both born naked. They sleep equally silently. They bow out without even leaving their new address. Then how can they be different? There can be no doubt on this score. We're all fundamentally the same. The Atma is neither born nor does it die at any time. It doesn't come into being or cease to exist. It is unborn, eternal, permanent, primeval, ancient. Although the human body is destined to die, the Atma is immortal. We have an extraordinarily detailed view into the wisdom of our civilization, the geography of our civilization, that's arguably over 10,000 years old, transferred to us uninterrupted from one generation to the next, in the own very words of our original rishis, passed on to preserve and to last eternally. Let our generation not break that link, is my eternal prayer. Here are a few Sanskrit words and their meanings. You can pause this slide and peruse at your leisure. It will help in understanding the words in their true sense throughout this journey. This concludes video 1 of series 1. Thank you for your attention. Namaste.